I always find it amazing how photos from the past can help us to appreciate how people looked and their lifestyle, what made them happy and what made them sad. In the 1800s, 1900s, this is an older one showing the Penobscot native people of Penobscot, Maine. And in my videos I like to deal with different subjects. I've talked about the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia, and of course these people interacted. They're all part of the Algonquin nation or of peoples, and the Penobscot, there's really not a lot of information about how they lived prior to the visitors from the old world into the new world. They came across the Atlantic Ocean. The original name of the Penobscot meant rocky part or descending ledges. So a ledge is like a rocky outcrop of stone in the waterways, which would be a fact. And the Penobscot River, there's ledges there, Outham Ledge for one, that I'm going to deal with a bit here today, and other rocky areas that have to be careful for and about. So it's claimed that they believe that the Penobscot native people lived in that area going back 11,000 years. This is the claim that's been made. And then there was contact by them made to the Europeans that came over and other peoples from other parts of the planet. They were a hunting and gathering society. They were hunting for beaver, otters, moose, bears, caribou, fish, and seafood, such as clams, mussels, fish. There were birds, and possibly marine mammals such as seals. And the women were very instrumental in gathering bird eggs, berries, nuts, and roots, all of which were found locally, so they were able to store up on these items for the winter months. Between February and March was a tough time for them, so survival was all the name of the game, I guess you could say. But they found a way to survive. And they certainly were able to make their legends survive. The oral tradition of the Penobscot, like the Mi'kmaq, were able to pass these down from thousands of years in the past to our day. And in the 1800s and so, in around that period of time, different people came here and recorded these legends on paper. Sometimes they got corrupted because of the decipherment wasn't made properly. The English words would be entered maybe, or the French words. Maybe things weren't heard clear enough. But the catch is, we get the gist off the legend clear enough that we understand what's being mentioned here. And we know that the Glooscap, as mentioned in my other videos, played a big role in the life and times of the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia, as well as all Algonquin people, all throughout wherever they lived, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, the Maliseet were in there, and then down through the New England states. So this was something that's been carried through the ages, and I've talked about this where the Orion constellation, I found it in these oral traditions, was the Orion constellation. And then I'm going to talk about the lost city of Norumbega and the lost temple of Umglebemu too. That was claimed to have been in the Penobscot area. It's an oral tradition of the Penobscot, and we're going to talk about that. So first of all, I'll bring up this video and help you to appreciate something. I just take a second here and we'll get this up. The Penobscot native people of Maine aware of Glooscap as the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia, the Algonquin people in general, throughout Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick, and all down through the New England states, had many tales and stories told over the centuries, for thousands of years, about Glooscap. As I've mentioned before in a few of my other videos, that I've discovered in the oral tradition of the Algonquin people that they recognize the Orion constellation that comes overhead during the winter months as being none other than Glooscap, their leader, their hero, the one who taught their children how to be kind and respectful. And this information was passed on by the chiefs, by the fathers and mothers, the grandmothers, grandfathers, to the children, generation after generation, by means of oral tradition, word of mouth, transmitted to our age. And in the 1800s, these were recorded, and some of them were corrupted by the English and French, not on purpose, but just a mistranslation of words sometimes, the meanings of the words. I'm very confident from all the legends that I've read that the awareness of the Penobscot was very great. They understood the constellations and they're moving in the night sky. This is a very unique video that I'm showing here. It demonstrates how over the ages, as we can see up in the right hand corner, during the AD period of time, and then it switches to the BC period of time. So you go into the past and you can see how the stars, which we know is that we are living in an expanding universe, so the stars are moving outward, and because of this, the Orion constellation changes over the ages. And this is demonstrated in what we would refer to as the bow here that Glooscap is holding, and he's pulling the bow back, and it's just like he puts an arrow in that bow. But this takes a huge amount of time, thousands and thousands of years for these stars to move. Eventually, in the future, not so much Glooscap, but the Orion constellation will change. It will no longer look as it does now, but we're looking a long time into the future, so something we don't have to really worry about. But I have a great appreciation for the native people of North America in relation to their understanding of the night skies and the constellations, and how they told stories that have various meanings and aspects of life and animals and the creation around them. So I'll leave you with that thought, and I'm certainly amazed at the technology we have now. And we know they didn't have this technology thousands of years ago, but they did have keen eyesight, and they could tell the difference in colors of stars and spot things that we would not be aware of today with the naked eye because of pollution and other things that are in the atmosphere that are hindering this clearness of sky that once hovered over our Earth. Now I'm going to bring up an old map of Norumbega, the Penobscot area, New England states. There's quite a few of them available that have the name Norumbega on it. So we're going to look into this a little bit, and let's just take a second to bring it up here. So here we have it as Norumbega. It's been a very controversial subject over the years. A lot of people have tried to figure out where it was located. And as we know, Champlain, when he came to North America, in this general area, he went up the Penobscot River, Samuel D. Champlain, looking for the lost city of Norumbega. And we can bring that down a bit here. And this is the city here, and this name Norumbega, so we can see it's on the map. he wasn't able to find that city, and people to this very day have not really pinpointed, even though I do know one individual that believes he has. Now other people believe it's down around the Bay of Fundy and various other locations. This individual kind of believes there was trade going on between the lost city of Norumbega. He believed the native people lived there, and they were trading or taking goods and monies and furs and what have you to Oak Island, Nova Scotia. And I'm going to talk a little bit about Oak Island, Nova Scotia as we go along here. And the lost temple of Umglebemu. And it was, the castle itself was a replacement for that lost city, and or that lost temple. And we know that in the oral tradition, that's what I'm going by, is that it claims that this castle was built by a king of the Penobscot, and it was a replacement for the temple of Umglebemu that was destroyed by an earthquake in the Penobscot area. I didn't make the story up. I know some people believe there was an individual who wrote books and exaggerated what he saw in North America. I'm more inclined to believe that the Penobscot really recorded something of value, and I'm going to take you now to Google Earth to show you here where things are located. It's amazing, isn't it, what we can do with technology these days. And this is Google Earth. I have some lines on it. There's the North Pole, and one of these lines goes down across the Great Pyramid of Giza. It's a longitude line that goes down to the equator. Then the equator goes across here. And then we can take this longitude line. It goes right by Bermuda, and this is marked on an old map too. And it takes you directly to Oak Island, Nova Scotia. So this is the longitude line. In future videos, I plan to get into this a bit more. And so let's take a look at Oak Island, Nova Scotia. I'll just take my time here going in because I'll point some features out. We have Newfoundland up here, the Betuk, native people, the Mi'kmaq of Nova Scotia, the Maliseet of New Brunswick, and then we have the Penobscot native people here in Penobscot, Maine. And then we can go down further. I guess the weather was tempered better down warmer climates. They could grow crops where the Penobscot were more limited to what they could do. So Oak Island, Nova Scotia, I'm always drawing attention to that because it's been in the media a lot these days, more so than, well, in the past, but it's always been in the media and always in the attention of the minds of people in Nova Scotia in particular. It's a mystery that's been going on for more than 200 years, and it's still unsolved as to who buried something on that island. Started in 1795. 3 young men went there and found a depression in the ground, and they dug down every 10 feet and found log platforms. We call them floors, I guess. And then they stopped, and another crew came in a few years later. I guess some of them were involved as well. And then they dug down to the 90-foot level, and they decided to go home for the night, but some of them, it seems like, might have put the crowbar or whatever between the log floor and the 90-foot level, might have loosened something up. And when they came back the next morning, the water had rose to the 33rd foot level. It filled the pit up. And they suspect there might have been a tunnel that came from Smith's Cove, and it was like a booby trap, and it was on the 100-foot level. But they did find, well, this is Smith's Cove, first of all, and then the money pit is in here somewhere. But they did find a stone, and it claimed inscribed stone on the 90-foot level that was brought up. We're hearing a lot more about that these days too, but we don't have to get into all these details. I just want you to remember something here. The latitude line of Oak Island is 445152. It's identical to the Odom Ledge on the Penobscot River. If I wanted to, I could put the grid in here. You know, this is all fact. It's not inaccurate. but we don't need that, so take that away. It's amazing what you can do to prove things. But now keep that number in mind, and we're going to hook what's called the Google Earth ruler on here. Oh, let's see if we can move this thing. And we're going to take that up. We'll go a little closer. This stone here is in the Jowdry's Cove area, and I like using this because it's never been moved as far as I'm concerned. It's always been there. So it's a stable thing to use for determining getting distances and what have you to... I'm just going to take that off for a second. Seem to be getting something else in there. Take a little closer. I've been down to this boulder too. It's really interesting. And the tide comes in. Of course, you can't get out to it. But it's quite solid and very large. It's part of what's referred to as Nolan's Cross. I don't know why I'm having a problem hooking that on there for some reason today. Oh, maybe I 1 second here. We'll just see what we got going. Okay, let's see if we can get it in here now. Doesn't want us. There we go. Just had it set up the wrong way there. You can set it up for degrees, miles, distances, all kinds of things you can measure with it, and very, very accurate. So with that latitude line that Oak Island's on, it just happens that Odom Ledge on the Penobscot River is located on that identical latitude line. And that makes me very suspicious, if I haven't already mentioned it. Odom is the name of a person. Now, I really don't know when this island got that name, but I'm very suspicious because the word Odom, when you spell it, well, it does mean oak tree, and the oak tree is spelled O-D-U-M, and that is a tree that grows in North Africa. And there have been claims over the years about oak trees being transported, whatever the seed or the acorn or whatever, from North Africa, and these trees grew in Oak Island, Nova Scotia. So I find that to be a very interesting coincidence. So we'll seal that in just so we won't lose it. And now, as I mentioned before, see, here's the number here. So it's identical. You can get very technical about it, but when you take your time, you can match the numbers up. These last few here, identical. So my claim is that there was, as the oral tradition of the Penobscot mentions, there was an earthquake, and the temple of Umglebemu was destroyed, and it's believed that it's in the Stowers Meadow. It's a watershed, and some people believe it's under those waters, but the trouble is there's never been any artifacts ever found in this area by archaeologists who've worked the area. There was no indications of anything special in this area. So that makes me very suspicious that I think possibly when this earthquake happened, this ledge was an island, an oak island, and it was bigger, and it got destroyed, and it could have been almost to the land here. And when it did get destroyed, the temple of Umglebemu was destroyed and went under the waters here. Then, as was mentioned in the oral tradition, the king of the Penobscot built a castle as a reminder, a replacement for the lost temple of Umglebemu. That name, I've researched it, and it almost hints at Romans, you know. I can trace it back to all kinds of connections, because the word, the glebe in the middle of that, I lived in a glebe in Ottawa. It's a subdivision. And you can trace that name right back to the Roman times. But I'm not here to make any great claims. You know, you wonder, you hear lots of rumors and lots of talks. People speculating and making conjectures who might have come to Canada in the distant past. So I'm not going to get into that today, but I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. I'll return to it, and there's other things I'll explain about these azimuth lines and what have you, something I've talked about a number of times over the years. So for now, we're going to close with a little video. I made a clock. I've made a few of them, And this latest one is what I refer to as a Micmac clock. And we'll just put it on here. This is one of my latest clocks that I'm working on. It's in the simple form right now of a few numbers here and there, but it's based on the Micmac carving, stone carving. It's known as a petroglyph, located in the Bedford Barrens area of Bedford, Nova Scotia. And this is known today by many people as an 8-pointed star. And when I was living in Bedford between 1985 to 92, I did a lot of work up there in the woods in this rocky area where this Micmac carving is permanently carved into the stone surface. And I did some work with it, studying the movement of constellations, the seasonal changes of, winter, summer, and the solstices and what have you. But today, I'm just making this short video and to give you an idea of what's happening. This is going to change a lot. It's in a simplified form right now. Later, there'll be more things added. I've been doing a lot of study with it, like a sundial, seeing where the shadows begin and end. When that's all completed, I should update the look of the face of this clock at that time.